Hey everybody, it's the waitingfornextyear.com podcast. I'm your host, Craig Lindell, and on the other end of the line is one half of Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and Beyond, a podcast that's part of the burgeoning Waiting for Next Year podcast network, Andy Billman.
Happy 4th, everybody, or post-4th, and happy schedule day. It's Monday, July 6th. The Indian schedule came out.
Wait, whose schedule?
The Indian schedule came out tonight.
Who are the Indians?
Craig is right. Cleveland's baseball team came out of the schedule.
I think it would be the ultimate troll job if they just came out as Cleveland baseball. One of the podcasts on the Waiting for Next Year network, it's actually just part of our main feed, is the brilliant, I love the boys who do the Browns Friday Fumble, and they refer to that other team as Pittsburgh football. And so if they became Cleveland baseball, I would kind of love it so much, just in like an inside joke with Dave and Dylan kind of way.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I referenced the Steelers as Pitt. I know it kind of pisses those people off. So Pitt.
So where are you on the emotional roller coaster of realizing that they're going to change something that we've, had since we were born?
I talked about this last year on a podcast, so maybe I'm a year ahead of it. But I think it's good. I think it's fine. I'll keep it short and simple. I realize there's a portion of the Cleveland fan base that's going to have a hard time with this. I'm not in that group. Craig, I don't hang on to team names like other people do in life. I just never really been that guy. The only one is the Browns. I think the Browns have a special meaning because of Paul Brown. But the Indians and even the Cavaliers, if they were ever change their name, it wouldn't really. But I don't know why. I just have never been that. I don't get attached to names like that. I get attached to the cities, not to the names. And the second point I'd bring up is there is a fraction of Native Americans who are very offended by the name Indian. And I just think it's simple. If that is the case, it's time to change the name and let's just move on.
I'm with you. A couple of years ago when the Wahoo argument was still going on, I had just kind of resigned myself to the fact that I was tired of the conversation. And
I am too.
The faster that I could get back to talking about actual baseball and actual things, like all the stuff, all the rest of it's kind of window dressing. I've never been particularly nostalgic. I certainly have a much tougher time when bands get rid of original members or things like that. But even then sometimes, like, take it or leave it, and it just doesn't matter. I guess the big thing for me right now is feeling like I do feel sorry for the fans who do care. And I do feel like this was handled really poorly, where there was no need to string this along. They should have just done it when they got rid of, I almost said Wahoo. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's well said. I mean, this really came to light in 16 during the Toronto series. And that was an opportunity to change it after that whole thing played out. They didn't change it then. The timing of this has been very odd. I agree with you. Indians should have changed it earlier. I'll be honest. I agree with you too. I hate to see fans get upset about this. All I will reply with is, I know if it's hard, I sympathize, but this is for the best. And this is the right move. It really is the right move. Some of the team, actually I got a list here. Some of the team names that are coming up again, the Spiders, which was a Cleveland team back in the day. In fact, I'll give it to you, Craig, 'cause I'm going to talk about this on the podcast with Jared later. I got the actual odds in Vegas. So Spiders 3-1, Naps 4-1, Guardians 5-1, which I find interesting. Buckeyes 6-1. I think if the Indians became the Buckeyes, I think I'd be interested to see how that would turn on fans.
See,
or off
and
fans.
I think that one should be off the board, because I think that one's it's not possible.
I think that's going to, again, I think it's going to turn on some fans. I think it's going to turn off some fans.
We've already gotten into that argument over the years where people think it's wrong to play Hang On Sloopy at Cleveland sporting events. Well,
that's silly.
Well, and most notably, and obviously, a former contributor at Waiting for Next Year, also a Michigan fan. And he was like, the Buckeyes don't have anything to do with Cleveland or the Cleveland Indians.
Well, yeah, it's in Ohio. I think okay, so to give some background on myself, I am not a Buckeyes fan. My dad went to Purdue, so I'm a huge Purdue fan, and my mom's side of the family went to Notre Dame, so I'm a huge Irish football fan.
Well, it's so easy to be a Purdue fan. They're like the New York Yankees of the Big Ten.
Exactly. It was great 2 years ago when we beat the crap out of the Buckeyes. But all that to be said, look, I think Hang On Swoopy, I like that song a lot. I'm not a Buckeyes fan. I think it's more of an Ohio song because of the OHIO in the middle. I've always kind of referenced that more to being an Ohio song. Maybe I'm wrong to think that. I don't know.
But I think that, like, we didn't grow up with that. That's relatively recent. Like, what, maybe the Trestle era? I
agree. I mean, you heard it definitely during the Cooper era, but it wasn't as present day as it is now. I just think that song has a lot more reference. Like, obviously, Ohio State made that popular, but at the same time, I think that song can be. I think that's a great tradition, Nathan, and I would hope that would continue. But anyways, a couple others that are interesting too are the Dobies, which would be great. I think Wild Things would be fun, and then the last one to just go all the way down to the Great Lakers of 41. Anyways, all that to be said, Craig, to kind of what you mentioned, I think it's time for a change. The reaction, I wasn't surprised by it. The naming of I think there is going to be a new name for Cleveland baseball in 2021. So I think that is happening. And I've been along sports long enough to know this is a big decision for the Indians. And, hopefully they pick one where most people go along with it, because I know I'm not naive. There will be people who will be fractured by the name change for sure.
I think they'll get over it though, too.
They will.
And not that this is a guarantee, and he didn't make any guarantees, but nobody has the inside track on the Indians more than Terry Pluto. And when he was on the radio today, a couple of things he said in a certain way where I believe that they're just absolutely not going to happen. He said, number one, he definitely expects the name to change. And number two, he expects them to do a clean break from anything Native American. So it's not going to be the Cleveland Tribe.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling too. I think they could do the Tribe and be good, but if that feels like that's a lingering thing, then then the Indians should not be doing that either. I kind of agree with him. I really don't think it'll be the Tribe. I agree. I've learned in sports, who knows? It's going to be a series of meetings. The one thing I will say is a positive is this is a great chance for the Cleveland baseball organization to do a relaunch, which I think they need. I know some fans don't agree with me at all on this, but it's always nice, and I learned this in sports in the last 10 or 15 years. Rebranding and remarketing actually is a good thing for the younger fans. And so I think the Indians could, will take this as a big opportunity too, and it's doing for the better good. And hopefully, Craig.
I mean, it's not like we're talking about the failure of Radio Shack becoming the Shack.
Right. Exactly. And I just always have referenced this with people, and you kind of hit upon it 5 minutes ago. People will be fine. It will. And by the way, it will be cool to buy Spiders gear if that's their name, or Naps gear if that's their name. I would throw in there the Clevelanders. I'm on my island with that, but I think that'd be cool for the city to be actually named after the city.
So there's a contingent at Waiting for Next Year that wants them to be the Cleveland Fellers. I think you have to avoid anything that references another person though, because then you're left to like defend everything that person ever did, said, etc. And we learned that you shouldn't put up statues of people when they're still alive for the most part. Whether it was Penn State or whatever else. So I think we're probably lucky nobody's dug up something really bad about Paul Brown.
Honestly, that's very true. It's really well said. And you make a good point too about the whole honoring. It's tricky. The only name in here that I see that I think would have an interesting, I think a very, very good thing would be the Dobies for obvious reasons. But you're right. I think I would not lean towards the Fellers or, the Tres Speakers. I think the Frank Robinsons would be really cool too. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think going with a natural name, whether it's the Spiders or Nats or, again, even the Buckeyes wouldn't really bother me. I know it would bother other people. Wild Things would be funny.
So here was my craziest off the wall idea. First of all, I like the Guardians the best. I think Spiders and some of those other things, I think they're kind of infantile.
Sure.
Just that's the way I look at them. I'll get used to whatever they do, but my off the wall, my hot take idea was that they should rebrand for the best player all the time. So they should have been the Cleveland Victors for Victor Martinez. They should have been the Cleveland Mannies. They should be the Cleveland Lindors right now. They should have been the Cleveland Klubers.
Yeah.
And we'll just rebrand this sucker every time we switch players.
I'll tell you the truth. A guy who I think really represents Cleveland baseball as a player and a manager would be Hargrove, the Grovers. He's a really nice man on top of it.
We can do that during the next rebuild when we don't have a star player yet.
Exactly. The Grovers would be another one. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I do think this is for the best. And all these, I'm with you. The Guardians works. I actually don't mind the Spiders or the Nats. I know the history behind the Nats, so I'm fine with that. I would not become the Blue Sox. I see that's one listed here. I don't know why the Rockers feels weird to me too.
Well, yeah, because it was a WNBA team. But it also feels a little bit infantile to me.
Yeah, it does. It reminds me more of WWF when there's
yes.
What were they called? I think they were called the Rockers.
They were. It was a tag team, right?
Yeah, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. Where's Marty Jannetty now? Boy, he got the short end of the stick of that tag. But yeah, it's that's my WWF knowledge. It's not even that, the WWE knowledge for today. But yeah, I think all this, to be honest though, I think this would be good. And again, I know people don't want to hear this. I really think the Indians rebranding in 2021 will be a good thing for them. It'll give them an excellent opportunity. And again, now to sound negative, I'll forewarn, don't want to mess this up. It's a big opportunity. Take advantage of it and hit it out of the park, as I say, for a little baseball,
yeah,
fun.
No, for sure. You have to look at these things like an opportunity.
Yep.
And too long, the Dolan family, as the owners, dragged their feet on this issue until it came to a head. They were too late on it. I've often criticized them for not leading on these issues and kind of being reactive instead of proactive. And I think this is another case where it's coming to bite them. They could fix it. They could really, really fix it this time. No,
I agree with you. And in fact, I agree with everything you're saying. I think they're going to get a mulligan if they get this right.
And they do it in all their PR too. They allow the world to talk about them rather than them talking about themselves. And if you leave that vacuum, you get talked about. And it happens far too often for my liking.
No, I agree. And look, not to go too far down memory lane, but they did not have good comments going into last year. I thought that really set the tone for this team. And I don't think they ever broke out of it. And during the Cleveland Sports Awards last January, I don't think it's a good time to bring that joke back to life.
No.
I just think they've missed the mark. I agree with you. They've had some strange, and they were so beloved after 16. And boy, after those comments in the beginning of 19, along with what Trevor Bauer did in SI, I thought it really set the weird tone for the Indians that entire year. They really were never able to get above that. So I agree with you. The Dolans really don't have anything like that. I agree with you. This would be an opportunity for them to get something in the positive column.
Has there ever been a guy more confusing than Trevor Bauer? Because simultaneously, I was almost, in some ways, I was relieved when he got traded. In other ways, I knew I was going to miss him desperately.
Yeah, we talked about this with Mandy Bill in the last podcast. And, and during that time, it was almost around this time last year. And you could see the edges coming off of him. And I miss his energy and his spirit. But, I have to, let's go twofold. Trevor, at the end of the day, he is very unique and he's got a lot of layers to him. However, for all the things he tweets about and everything else, and he had some really productive years, and he had a great game against the Yankees in Game 1 of the ALDS. all that to be said, I don't think anybody in his fan base, including myself at times, has properly taken advisement of like, he did cut his hand on a fucking drone in a big spot in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he always gets a pass for that. And it's, I don't understand why. That was a bad moment for him. Sorry. Like, that didn't go well. He didn't finish that game. He did not play well in the World Series. And I think sometimes that kind of gets more scoffed at. Craig, that was a World Series. He lost both games. Didn't look good.
Yeah, I always defended that. Not like it's definitely dumb, but like he didn't want that to happen. I mean,
no.
I don't know. It's something he's probably done 1,000 times before. I don't know.
Craig, here's the thing I'll say. All fair. Here's my point, though. With a situation of what you're doing as a pitcher, okay?
Yep.
And knowing what we do for a living, you have to know, like, maybe this is not the best time to be flying my drone around in the middle of playoff time.
Yeah.
Just saying.
You're not
wrong.
And
again, like, here's why it bothers me, Craig. He fluffs that off all the time. It's like, and I agree with you. He didn't want that to happen. No one did. But Trevor, show a little remorse. I mean, just a little like, man, I apologize. Man, I felt terrible. Craig, he doesn't feel like he gives a shit at all.
Yeah, you're right. He definitely lacks remorse.
Yeah. I mean, at a certain point you go, like his comments lately on Twitter, it's like, okay, I definitely am with you on the shilling stuff. But all that to be said, Trevor, like, in the biggest spot in your playoff life, you cut your hand. Okay. If you would have played this differently, sympathy would have been had by us fans, especially in Cleveland. You don't act like you care.
No, he definitely doesn't.
Yeah, it's very, very weird. And the other thing about Trevor, too, I'll talk to you from the phone instead. Maybe that'll be easier.
All right, there. I got you back. So you said the other thing about Trevor. That's where we lost you.
The other thing about Trevor that I thought also was how he left Cleveland. He basically did a self-press conference in the middle of the game.
I forgot all about that.
And I thought that was very poorly done and in poor taste. And what it reminded me of is all about Trevor. All this is all about Trevor. And I did not like how he acted that day. I didn't think that was appropriate. And that's why, Craig, like, there are moments where I'm like, oh, gosh, Bauer is this and Bauer that. And he's kind of funny and quirky. If I be honest with you, the top two memories are him cutting his hand on the drone and how he exited in Cleveland that night and going around the stadium,
Yeah. No, I get your point. He never had those giant
Yeah, I am having one of those funny moments as a dad where, oh my God, my son's calling me on my ex-wife's phone. This is great. Craig, you're getting the full scope of my life here.
It's the reality TV version of you.
It really is. All right, I'll pick it back up here. I thought those two moments with him on the mound, obviously him on the mound in Kansas City was like that was the final off point. But Craig, like how he handled those other two moments, we're not well handled. They weren't on the mound, and again after he got traded, him roaming around the stadium doing a press conference, that was bizarre.
Yeah, it really was. And he had his own camera crew and, but then again, he does that weird video where he and Jose Ramirez are doing batting practice in the desert.
Oh, I know.
There's something so he is the roller coaster. He's the ultimate mixed bag, ups and downs and nothing in between. There was never a medium day for Trevor. It was good or bad.
No, I agree. And I'll say this too. Trevor has to learn. There are moments and there are times where you have to stay in your lane, and he does not do that well.
No.
He does not. And I don't know how to put it. There are moments where it's like, okay, sure. That's fine. All that to be said, Trevor, like right now, is that what's best for on the field and with your team? And There's multiple moments where I also thought that too. All that to be said, I will admit, like, I miss some of his funk. I'll call it spunkiness. I miss some of his edge. And when he's focused, he's actually a really good pitcher. But all around that, there's a lot of other stuff that's going around. It's going to be interesting for Bauer. He really wanted to do this year-to-year contract after COVID-19 really hits the league. I wonder how he feels about that now.
Yeah, no, it's true. Although, did he wanted to do the year-to-year, but did he have much of an opportunity to I guess he could have signed the long-term deal at any point when he was going through arbitration, and he chose not to work out a long-term deal. And historically, betting on yourself as a pitcher is usually a really smart thing for the most part. But then again, pitchers also, he's so confident in his training and his health that I think he has a false sense of security based on how smart he thinks he is with his body. And I think he's super smart when everything's working. But it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee of health. LeBron doesn't have a guarantee of health because of how much he spends on trainers and yoga and all these different things. It's about minimizing risk, but it even caught up with him last season.
Yep.
And he's the greatest of all time.
And that's exactly right. And again, that's a Trevor we love. He is analytically minded. I love how he actually I'll be fair. I actually think he helped Shane Bieber and helped Clevenger a lot. I'm not naive. He did that stuff. He has some things in there that I think he actually really helps some young pitchers that are still in the Indians today. But what he said about Cody Allen in the press, what he said about Corey Cooper in the press was just bizarre. Bizarre. Very, very, very strange. All that to be said, I'm very excited about the Indians, and here's why. I think if we all believe in Francona and Antonetti and Turnoff, I think we do, then the Indians should actually be one of the teams really ready to roll. And as they said at the beginning of today, before the schedules came out, the Indians, no matter how you break it, no matter who they play where, they have the second easiest schedule behind the Twins. So, according to records from last year. I really do believe, Craig, this is a team that's a sleeping dog ready to attack. I think last year will play as a big motivation for this year. I can already tell by some of the quotes that I'm reading early on, this team seems to be very loosey-goosey and ready to go for this year. And seeing what I'm seeing here locally in the Northeast and seeing what I'm seeing nationally, the Indians are one of the few teams that seems to be more jiving and excited about this 2020 season in a time where you would understand there was tempered or even, not so much enthusiasm you normally see at the beginning of the year.
Well, I'm not going to tell you there's any carryover from the shortened spring training, but I did get a chance to see them in spring training, and I was watching all those stats, as they were piling up home runs, and Franmil was going crazy, and Bobby Bradley was crushing the ball. I didn't get the feeling that this team was worse than it was last year. I think even in closing the door on the Jason Kipnis era, even though Jason Kipnis gets a bad rap, I think he was a pretty decent Indian for a long time. Yeah. But there's some closure, and closure is sometimes good for the teammates too, because nobody's wondering, well, is he going to be back next year?
Yep.
No, he's gone.
Yep, I agree. And that's why this team is really set up for success in a way, because you're right. Kipnis actually was a great Indian. He came in that trade. He was very, very good. People forget he was having a wonderful World Series. He really had a great World Series in 2016.
He did.
Really, really played well. I just think people, not to make this all about Kipnis, but I actually have a soft spot in my heart. There are two people in recent years who I don't understand why there's sometimes angst. One of them is Kipnis and one of them is Kevin Love. I like both those guys a lot.
Yeah.
For some reason, there's fans who don't, and I don't understand why. I really don't. But I really adore both and love them. I think of them as Clevelanders first. All that to be said, to what you're mentioning, I agree with you there. I thought also, even though it was very sad and this trade may not work out for the Indians as a class A, I think Kluber actually exiting helps. The Indians are one of the rare teams that actually have way too much starting pitching. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. It's true, though. I mean, they really do have way too much. So the Kluber trade made sense. It's just things about Clase. All to be said, I think you're right. I think that helps out, too. I think Kluber was kind of lost in the weeds last year. I don't think the Bauer thing helped. I think Bauer leaving also helped out the team a lot. And I think there's a lot of people who are really ready here to prove. I agree with you about Reyes. I didn't see it, but I heard exciting things about Reyes. The rebirth of Carlos Santana last year was exciting. A lot of people are very high on this guy, Domingo Santana, who came over from the Mariners, who I'm excited about too.
So now that all the cards are on the table, how dumb is it that they let Carlos Santana leave in the first place?
Yeah, it was nuts.
That kind of stuff drives me nuts.
Yeah, the Indians, and here's where the Indians reading into Frankie. Okay, let's get to the real guy. First of the day of the press. Frankie is trying to find a way to come back to Cleveland with him getting fair market value. Now, what does that mean during COVID-19? I'm not sure. But you would hope and you would think, Craig, the Indians, or whatever their name is, Cleveland Baseball will call them today. You would hope that they would be taking this as an advantage to talk to Frankie to make something work. I get the feeling when you listen to this that he's not saying I'm coming back or I think I'm coming back, but he's saying I would like to make something work. I do get that from this guy. I really do. I
do too. And honestly, I understand all the dynamics, but I don't think he should have to sacrifice. I really don't. And the question I've always wondered, I've always asked is if this were the Cleveland Dan Gilberts or the Cleveland Jimmy Haslams, not to say that those guys are great owners, just talking about their checkbooks, would Francisco Lindor be going somewhere else? Or are those guys playing a different kind of game than the Dolan family? And I choose to believe that Dan Gilbert and Jimmy Haslam, they wouldn't be able to sign every single player, but I can't imagine Francisco Lindor coming through their organization and allowing him to leave. I just can't.
I agree, and I would actually double down. This is an Indians thing for sure. This is actually a bigger baseball problem.
It is.
Baseball has to figure, and this is why at the end of 2021, there is a very, very strong chance you're going to lose more games again going into 22. Because there needs to be a salary cap, and there needs to be a way that you can have a salary cap with also keeping player salaries at what they are. And they need to figure that out because it's not fair to Cleveland. It's not fair to Tampa Bay. It's not fair to Pittsburgh. It's not fair to Kansas City. Kansas City built such a great team, and they had to tear it down. Why? They couldn't afford it. And by the way, I think some of that is bullshit, too, because we all saw the Royals get sold for billions of dollars.
Well, and now that they've sold, maybe they never would have torn down.
Right, exactly. So I just think
the Golden State Warriors act very differently today than when they were under their previous owner.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But I mean, the NBA is a different sport.
NBA, yeah, different league altogether. But going back to what you're saying, if this is Jimmy Haslam, he'd be renegotiating with Lindor like they are with Myles Garrett. If it was Dan Gilbert would be locking him down to a long-term deal.
Yeah, Dan Gilbert, from a cash flow perspective, I'm convinced Dan Gilbert lost money some of those LeBron years.
No, of course. No, of course. I would also, here's the thing that's interesting about Gilbert. Not to make this too much about that road, but we'll go down it for a minute.
Sure.
Dan did two things. He obviously did some things to the Cavs team itself. I know people don't want to admit that, but he did make some good moves. He pulled the trigger on some things to make some things happen to make the Cavs better. Number two, the biggest thing that I think that people don't recognize is the Gund was an afterthought forever. Gund Arena.
Yep.
He came and even when you say that, you go, gosh, remember that, the Gund? What the Q is today and what the Q was even 5 years ago is an unbelievable transformation.
People made fun of Humongotron, but it was amazing.
Oh, that's amazing. For people who are outside of Cleveland, when they come to see a Cavs game, and I've been with people who work with me at ESPN or other ways, and they say the same thing. This is the best arena I've been in. It really is. It's amazing.
And it's really hard to put any personality or touch into a basketball arena. By nature, they're kind of all the same, or they should be.
Correct. What Gilbert did to do a facelift was unreal, and I think people forget that at times, and I think he's really made use of not just the Cavs of that arena. He really has. I mean, that is his own money. For what better or worse, that is his own money going into something to put something back into value. And by the way, rightly so, he's actually probably made money more on that than anything else. That's great. It's great for the city. It's great for him. It's great for everybody. And that, now bring it back to the baseball team.
I mean, we could have a longer discussion about stadium financing and government money going toward it, and I'm actually really, really against it. But system aside, that's like we're saying the baseball issue is bigger than just the Indians. The funding issue is bigger than just Cleveland and Dan Gilbert. But for all, he did a great job with a broken system.
I agree, and I'm with you. Giving money, tax money on cigarettes and alcohol back to in the hands of owners is very risky, and does not always break the way it should. And that's why I don't have a problem with you and I saying, why aren't the Indians re-signing Lindor? Why aren't the Browns and the Indians doing these set things? Because money's been poured back into from the community's money, so why can't it be used?
Yeah.
To sign players. And if they're worth as much as Forbes says they are, then you know what? Is money lost because of revenue loss from year to year? Or is money lost because they're not making as much money as they should? And I think that's a whole different, some of these numbers, that's where you can get numbers that are really, really fixed and, can really scramble one's brain.
Yeah.
And in a way, all that to be said, this is a big opportunity for the Indians. And I know this name change is going to stress a lot of people out, and I sympathize with that. But again, to the biggest point, this is the right thing to do. I think it's time to change the team name. I think it's the next opportunity for this club. And the Browns will have to wait and see. There's a lot of things that are there on paper that feel good. I think the Cavs are really, and I think this pandemic, there's bigger things to worry about in society, obviously, but the Cavs not playing, I think, really hurts them a lot as a young team.
No, and it's a weird thing because we go from talking about the systemic issues with Major League Baseball, the way the NBA has, and it played to our benefit when LeBron decided to come back to Cleveland as fans. We were the beneficiaries of his ability to kind of put together a super team. But for an average NBA team that has no history with LeBron James, there's no defined path. There's no, as a team fan, a local team fan, like I'm not an NBA fan. I'm a Cavs fan. There's no defined path. There's no Spurs model. There's no Raptors model. There's no model.
Nope, I agree. And, the Cavs, I thought I was on an island with this. I really applauded that Drummond trade. I liked that. That was a lot. We just mentioned it. That's a huge change they just took on from Drummond. Huge. And he picked up his player option, and that was the right thing to do.
I don't know what it gets them, but yeah, I love it too.
Yeah. And it's like, you know what? Those last 8 games, you saw things, they didn't break the world on fire. They went 500, but okay, they went 4-4. You're starting to see things where it's like, okay, they are this crappy. And then this whole thing went down and,
no draft.
Yeah, and it's all, and you know what? Now it's all back to what I can't stand that drives me crazy. That's why I'm against tanking. I am never for tanking. It's all down to lottery balls and draft against. And that's a very, very narrow path to success, in my opinion. And I don't think it's right. We've seen this too much.
Yeah, because sometimes you draft Anthony Bennett.
Yes, and it's been proven with analytics and in these stat groups, hitting on the draft is a crapshoot. It's a crapshoot. There's only so many Zion. There's only so many Peyton Mannings. There's only so many of these players. To think you can draft your way back is, I just think it's very naive and very poor.
And I'm higher than most people on Baker, and I obviously love, Myles Garrett, but neither one of those guys has proven that, number 1 picks are going to equal anything at this point. It's not a guarantee. That's all.
not a guarantee, and I will say this till forever. And that even if the Browns get successful this year, moving on, 1-31 was not worth it. Sorry.
No.
Sorry. And by the way, 1-31 was one missed field goal from a guy to make it 0-32.
Oh God. Yeah. No, it wasn't. That was 2 years of my life. That was 2 whole years of my life. It wasn't worth it.
No. And I think it puts such a stain on this organization that they're still trying to climb out of. And that's why last year going 6-10 was almost like going 1-15 again. Because it was so high expectations. But because of the past, it just clouds us. And again, not to go too far down the road, but that's why, at the end of 18, it had nothing to do with the Browns making the playoffs. They were already eliminated. But winning that game in Baltimore would have done a lot more good than what people realized. And losing that game again is like, well, we're so close, but look how far we've come. That is, I love the positivity, but let's get fucking real. We gotta start winning these games.
Yeah.
Gotta start winning these games.
Yeah, getting close is for losers. And I'm tired of I stopped apologizing for the Browns a long time ago. I stopped apologizing for any of my teams a long time ago. Figure it out. And it's not up to me to know the depth charts of 27 or 30 other teams, depending on which sport we're talking about. I'm not the one who's supposed to come up with solutions. I'm not the one who's supposed to tell you who they're supposed to draft in the first round. You're supposed to be able to figure that out. You're supposed to deliver.
That's right. And that's why.
I'm just an idiot with a microphone in front of his face.
That's right. And I am too. And I'll go further. That's why it's a big year for Baker Mayfield. That's why it's a big year next year for Darius Garland. And that's why, for sure, for the Indians, they have a really good moment in front of them. Because right now, with a team that made very few off-season moves, which I think is a good thing, Cesar Hernandez and Domingo Santana aside, that's about it. Everybody else in this team pretty much flipped over. And if there's every year, like, this team should be ready to roll. And at the same time, for the Browns, especially, forget the Cavs, the Browns especially, Craig, 8-8, not going to cut it.
Nope.
They've got to go to the playoffs.
But this Indians team, I'm with you. Frankie, Franmil, Jose Ramirez. This could be a really, really fun mini season.
Hey, if you got a guy if you watched, and I watched every Indians game last year, except for the games in the late. By the way, so fucking happy they're not playing West Coast games. Oh, wow. Oh, thank God. Oh, it was miserable. We'll stand for that shit this year. They're playing all NL West teams. All that to be said, Bieber's really good. Clemenger's really good. Carrasco coming back. Sounds like he's fired up. There's this guy, Jeffrey Rodriguez, who was very good before he got injured. He's not even in competition to start.
Wow.
There's talent on this team. Plesac looked good. Savali pitched a huge game in Minnesota on the road and won that game last year. Everything soup to nuts is down. The only thing, and it's the same old story. Can Brad Hand be the first half Brad Hand, or we get second half Brad Hand?
Oh, I forgot about Brad Hand.
Yep. And because there's no more Emmanuel Clase backup reliever. It's either Brad Hand or bust.
Well, not to mention the 3-batter reliever rule. There's going to be a little bit of chaos this season.
There will be. And they said they are. I got to double check, but I think they said they're getting rid of that rule. Which for this year they need to. You can't. There's just too much. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But I really do. I think this is a great moment for this team, and it's going to. Hopefully the Shields will be okay. Sounds like he's doing better with COVID-19, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be. I feel really bad for everyone when it comes to Brad Mills not being back, and he has to do what he has to do with his family. But
yeah, absolutely.
That's hard. I don't know Brad at all, but he seems like such a good man, and that kind of story you just hate to hear. All that to be said, this team just looks. I just feel, Craig, and I'm from afar. What the hell do I know? This team just feels like they're ready to make a charge. Well, look, they have to do it, but it's very, very possible.
And they might make asses out of both of us, but who cares? Feels good right now.
Oh, look, there's a very handsome coach who's coaching the Browns right now. If people were to ask, they'd say they'd go 12-4. Doesn't mean shit.
No.
Off the ball or you throw the first pitch. We all know that.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, by the way, one little caveat. It's good the Indians are starting this year at home against the Royals. I think it's a good way to start the year.
Yeah, I like it too. All right, last non-Cleveland sports thing, 30-second take. What was your reaction to Pat Mahomes' 10-year, $503 million contract?
These teams are worth billions of dollars. He is worth a lot of money. Kansas City is very smart. He's worth every nickel.
Yeah, I wish Baker Mayfield was worthy of that contract, or I hope he becomes worthy of that contract, or anything approaching 7, 8, 9, 10-year deal.
Here's what's going to help out everyone, and I've been banging this drum on our podcast, and I'm bringing drum here. Give the ball to 24. Give the ball to Nick Chubb, and let Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb win you games. And I think this will help out the team so much.
Oh,
but
I
yeah,
agree.
I mean, look, all that to be said, Mayfield's got a lot to live up to if you're comparing it to Mahomes. Mahomes deserves every nickel, in my opinion. He's the face of the organization.
Yeah, and as we know from Frankie Lindor, they're worth a premium. They're worth a premium. All right, Andy, so fun. We talk on the phone from time to time. We should just record every single one of those. Although,
agreed. Like I said, it's always great talking to you, and I hope everybody out there had a great 4th of July as I did, as I'm now going to pass out from chips and dip and all sorts of other goodies I ate over the weekend. And
go find Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and Beyond. It's this is a compliment for me. It's a straightforward sports podcast by a couple guys who care a lot. There's nothing overly fancy about it. It's straight sports talk, man. It's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We are the mustard on your hot dog.
That's, it's funny. That's the way I feel about the nail in the coffin too. Those guys, it's just straight ahead sports talk. They don't try and pretend to be anything else. That's what they do. And it's great.
Well, I really appreciate that. And Craig is a good man. For everybody out there who wants to know, yes, he is this charming on the air as he is off. So, kudos to Craig for us. I love working with Craig, and we've been lucky to be a part of this whole thing. Cool. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. It's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.